Alright, so we're now in the airplane. I'll just assume that we have completed our pre-flight inspection, so we've done the interior and exterior pre-flight checks. We've made sure that the airplane is airworthy and that all the documentation is in order, and so on. I'll now go through all the, or not all of them, but through the most important procedures of Section 4 in the Pilot's Operating Handbook with you. We'll just do one after the other in chronological order. We'll do all of them on the ground because I'm just going to show you what's actually the content of the respective procedure, how it's done, what you need to check. We don't need to go flying for that actually, and we will do all the respective flight phase related procedures in the respective lessons anyway. Okay, so let's start with the first check. That's the before starting engine checklist. First, we check that the pre-flight inspection is complete, so we've done our interior and exterior pre-flight. Next is to check seats, seat belts, shoulder harnesses adjusted and locked. So that's really important that your seat is locked and your seat belts are fastened. There have been accidents where a seat was not locked properly, and after takeoff, due to the nose of the airplane pitching up, the seat, together with the pilot sitting on it, was sliding back and made it impossible for him to reach the controls. So that's, of course, a very dangerous situation. What can also happen in this case that you inadvertently grab the control column or the control yoke, pulling it back and stalling the airplane. Okay, next point, fuel shutoff valve on. That's down here. Check it's on. Of course, also very important because the engine can actually start with the fuel valve on off because there is still some fuel in the fuel lines. And if you really have bad luck, then the fuel might even be sufficient for takeoff, and then shortly on takeoff or after takeoff, you have an engine failure because of a fuel starvation. So really make sure that the fuel valve is in the on position. Then we check that radios, electrical equipment, everything is off. We set the brakes, so parking brake is on. Additionally, I really recommend to keep your feet on the brakes during engine start so that the airplane doesn't start to move. And then we check circuit breakers in. Yes, they're in, and the before starting engine check is completed. Next is starting engine. I'll do the procedure now for temperatures above freezing. There's a separate procedure for cold weather, but I'm not going into detail about that now. So first of all, check mixture rich. So just push the mixture control full in. Carb heat cold. Make sure it's in the off or cold position. Then prime as required. Now with the primer, I'll just use 3 strokes right now. Let's say the engine is cold. Now this will move some fuel into the engine inlet, so this will facilitate engine starting. Then with a cold engine, move the throttle just half an inch forward. Okay. Then it's really important, check propeller area clear, so there are no people or any other obstacles, vehicles, whatever, near the airplane. It's looking good. Then master switch on, so both sides of the master switch to on. Powering the electrical system of the airplane now from the battery. Then there's something that's actually a little bit later in the checklist, but I prefer to do it right away. This is switching the beacon light to on, because this will warn people around us of the impending engine start. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we switch the ignition to start, set roughly 1000 RPM. Of course, release the starter switch as soon as the engine starts, and then immediately check the oil pressure. Okay, so just get our ignition key in, and then start the engine. So move the ignition key to start. Release when the engine starts. Check oil pressure is in the green, yes it is, and the engine RPM set 1000 RPM. Okay, that's good. Next step in the checklist would be to check beacon lights on and navigation lights on. It's now broad daylight, so I'll leave the nav lights off. And radios on, so switch on everything you need. This can be the COM radio, the nav radio, whatever you need. I will switch now just the COM radio to on if I can manage. Yes, and the transponder to standby for the time. All right. Now starting engine checklist is complete. Now in real life you would now start to taxi to the departure runway or to a designated run-up area and do your run-up checks and the before takeoff checks there. So before takeoff checks, parking brake is set, cabin doors are closed and latched, flight controls free and correct. Now move the controls through their full travel. And not only that, but also take a look outside and check that actually the control surfaces are moving in the correct direction. Because there have been accidents where the controls have been rigged incorrectly after a maintenance, and when the pilot was turning the yoke to the left, the airplane was actually going to the right. So that's of course a pretty bad situation. But this can be very easily avoided if you do a thorough flight control check. Alright. Then flight instrument set. So airspeed shows 0, attitude indicator no pitch, no bank. Altimeter QNH set and showing airfield elevation. Vertical speed indicator showing 0. Heading indicator, we have a heading of 150, so let's set the heading indicator to that value. And the turn coordinator shows no flag. Alright. During taxi you should also check the flight instruments. So especially during turns, you check that the directional indicator is actually also moving in the turn, and that also the airplane symbol is tilting, and the little ball is moving to the outside of the turn. Alright, then we'll check again. Fuel valve is on. The mixture is rich, below 3000 feet. This is the case right now, so leave the mixture rich. The elevator trim, it's right here, is set for takeoff, meaning it's in the white